A new deadly strike in Lebanon is raising fears of an all-out war in the Middle East. Israel's military today said it conducted an airstrike in Beirut that targeted and killed a senior Hezbollah commander. It marks the first Israeli airstrike against Hezbollah in the Lebanese capital since this war in Gaza began on October 7th. The IDF says the strike was revenge for a rocket attack on a soccer field in the Golan Heights area on Saturday that killed 12 children and teenagers. Minutes after today's strike, Israel's defense minister wrote on X that, quote, Hezbollah crossed a red line, end quote. But while tensions are high, the White House is pushing back on concerns of a full-blown war.
So we do not believe that an all-out war is inevitable. That is not something that we believe, and we believe that it can still be avoided.
Joining us now for more on all of this is Kurt Volker, former U.S. ambassador to NATO. Ambassador, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Do you have serious concerns, sir, of a wider regional war tonight?
Absolutely. And the main reason is because we have been seeing a wider regional war already. It just hasn't been all out. We've seen Iran declare this ring of fire around Israel. They've been supporting Hamas and the Hamas attacks against Israel, Hezbollah and the rocket attacks against Israel, the Houthis and their attacks against Western shipping. So this has been already out there for some time. It's just been at a low simmer. And anything like this can fire it up and turn it into a much more aggressive war, much more hot war than we've seen thus far. And I think the key to preventing that is not only diplomacy. Diplomacy is great, but we've got to have a stronger U.S. position. It's got to be one that holds Iran to account.
Well, the IDF just confirmed moments ago that the Hezbollah leader was killed in this strike. What do you think Israel will do next? Will there be a lot of back and forth in your experience?
Well, I think what Israel is trying to do is convince Hezbollah not to retaliate massively, and that they could have their strike. Hezbollah will have already done a strike against that schoolyard, and that this would then go back to a low ebb again. But there's no certainty that that will be the case. Hezbollah could respond much more, and that could lead to a cycle of escalation.
Does the strike put the ceasefire and hostage negotiations with Hamas in jeopardy? We know mediators are meeting in Rome.
Yeah, no, that's right. And this hostage situation is absolutely intolerable. We need to be pressing on that at all times. Again, it's a function. I hate to keep looking backwards, but for this to have gone on this long without more pressure on Hamas, without assistance to Israel, with getting the hostages out, it just perpetuates a situation where the slightest spark could set off a bigger fire.
You mentioned that the U.S. needs to take a stronger stance against Iran. What does the U.S. need to do now, immediately? And what can the U.S. do to lower the temperature in the region?
Well, unfortunately, the temperature is high because Iran has caused it to be high. They have armed and trained and supported all of their proxies in the region. They've launched these various attacks. Iran needs to feel pressure directly on its own interests that continuing to do this will be damaging for Iran. So we need to be holding them to account, not trying to engage in further negotiations, but saying that they would be subject to strikes themselves if these things continue.
And we've also learned in the last few hours that Prime Minister Netanyahu arrived at the Israeli military headquarters for assessments. What do you think, or from your experience, what do you think is the next step for the PM, especially with so many citizens within his own country not happy with his handling of the Gaza war?
Well, I think what he has to do right now is brace the country in case there is a more substantial Hezbollah and/or Iranian attack on Israel. We already saw that one overnight attack by Iran. We and other countries assisted Israel in shooting down all of those drones and missiles. But that could happen again, and it could be coordinated with thousands of missiles coming from Hezbollah. So the first thing is going to be bracing his military and his society for the possibility of some retaliatory strikes from Hezbollah. The next is, if that happens, be planning the next moves for Israel to make sure that they degrade those capabilities.
Your context crucial today, sir. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Kurt Volker.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.